What's going on, Jeromes? So we all love the NFL draft, but what about the supplemental draft? Now, supplemental draft is confusing because it doesn't happen every year because there isn't always eligible players. Happens in the middle of the summer, and generally it sort of comes and goes, but this year it is on because two players are eligible for the supplemental draft. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, go. Two players are granted eligibility for next week's NFL Supplemental Draft: Jackson State wide receiver Malachi Wideman and Purdue wide receiver Milton Wright. Those are the only two players that can be selected in the supplemental draft, the first since 2019, which will take place on Tuesday. And Malachi Moore, the pride of Jackson State, was one of Deion Sanders' recruits, caught 12 touchdowns back in 2021. Back in the day. Was also on the Jackson State basketball team. He's 6'5" and change. Kirky needs a tall receiver. And then Milton Wright from Purdue, 99 catches, 1,325 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns in 3 seasons. If that was 1 year, that'd be pretty good. Actually, that wouldn't even be Jordan Addison at Pitt in 2021. But both wideouts are eligible for this year's supplemental draft. Now, there's a variety of reasons why players are in the supplemental draft. Generally, it's if they're draft eligible, so you just can't have a sophomore coming in the supplemental draft. But if they didn't declare for the spring's draft and they're deemed ineligible for their team, they can get in the supplemental draft in the middle of the summer versus having to wait all the way till next April for next year's draft. And how it works is, this is from CBSSports.com. The supplemental draft order is different from the regular draft order. Teams are separated into 3 groups based on the previous season. The first group is non-playoff teams that had 6 or fewer wins. The second group is non-playoff teams with more than 6 wins. And the final group is playoff teams. The order in those groups is determined by a weighted lottery. NFL finally got a lottery. With the teams with the fewest wins given the best chance to win the earliest picks. Bids for players are submitted blindly by teams with the round that the team would select a given player. So it isn't like a regular draft. You just submit bids, be like, all right, so we like Milton Wright, we would give him a 6th round pick. We like Malachi Moore, we give him a 7th round pick. And if your round is the highest, and then if there's multiple teams that submit the same round on the same player, and then it goes down to the order. So that's how it works. And the team highest in the draft order, I just said that, who submits the earliest round bid, I just said that, for a player will be awarded the player. When that happens, the club forfeits a pick in the same round of the next year's regular draft. So basically, if a team picks up one of these 2 wide receivers this year, they'll give up the corresponding draft pick in the 2024 draft. And there has been some notable names in the supplemental draft throughout history. So like Pelissero said, first supplemental draft since 2019, Jalen Thompson ended up being picked up by the Cardinals. But Sam Beal from Western Michigan rode the boat. Josh Gordon, a very notable name, ended up being a Pro Bowler, was a 2nd round pick coming out of Baylor, who was dismissed by the team, ended up bouncing around the league. And every single year, it's like, this is the year Josh Gordon gets it together. He's still relatively young. Terrell Pryor from Ohio State was suspended as part of, what was it, Tattoo Gate, and also like the chain. No, what was it? No, the gold pants. I think that's what it is. It feels like gold pants would be heavy and stiff, but and the Browns. The Raiders gave up a 3rd round pick for Terrell Pryor. Pryor did end up on the Browns as a wide receiver too, by the way. Also, didn't Terrell Pryor have a 1,000-yard season as a wideout? That's range, man. That's range. Then going through, a couple Pro Bowlers came through. Ahmad Brooks of the Bengals eventually went to the Niners. Did some really good things there. Jamal Williams, the nose tackle, not the super fun anime-loving running back. Mike Wale, stupid Green Bay Packer, no problem. Rob Moore, who ended up being a Pro Bowler, 1st round pick. And there's a couple of players that teams gave up serious draft capital for. Dave Brown was quarterback of the Giants for a while. Rob Moore, like we mentioned, ended up doing his best work with the Cardinals. Bobby Humphrey, run of 1st round picks. Tim Rosenbach, the legend, going to the Phoenix Cardinals, not the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Cardinals. Of course, Steve Walsh. So Steve Walsh is interesting because in the 89 regular draft, Jimmy Johnson, first-year head coach of the Cowboys, took Troy Aikman #1 overall. And then in the supplemental draft, he took Steve Walsh, who was his quarterback at Miami, the job that he had before he took the Cowboys job. So he spent 2 first-round picks, including the #1 overall pick on quarterbacks. And Jimmy Johnson was actually smart about it before he ripped off the Vikings. But he was like, hey, one of you is going to win the job, and then I'll trade the other one. It's actually pretty smart. But of course, Troy Aikman ended up winning out there. And of course, Chris Carter ended up being a 4th-round compensatory pick in 1987. And Chris Carter was suspended because he signed with an agent, but the Pride of Ohio State ended up at Philadelphia, ended up on waivers. Vikings picked him up. Ooh, we know the rest of the story. Also, yeah, the Bosworth was in that supplemental draft as a 1st-round pick. I love it, man. Now, I mean, sometimes you try and groove a matchup, like Bernie Kosar joining the supplemental draft after graduating after the 85 draft. Okay, it didn't have anything to do at all with the Browns getting that matchup. Yeah, and Bernie going home, being a native son of Cleveland, but yeah, well, whatever there. But yeah. A handful, I think it was 8 Pro Bowlers, 1 Pro Football Hall of Famer in CC. So, I mean, there are some names that come through. Now, do I expect Juwan Cherry? Juwan Cherry was decent for a while, man. Now, do I expect Malachi Moore or Milton Wright to be selected? Maybe. We'll see. But either way, I don't expect teams to give up a lot, but it is always kind of fun. Breaks up the monotony of the offseason. And, wishing these guys the best of luck, Malachi Moore, Milton Wright, in the supplemental draft. And if they go unselected, they end up being a free agent and the free to sign with a team. So it's the super bonus UDFAs, if that is the case. But your thoughts are thoughts. The 2023 NFL Supplemental Draft is on. 2 players eligible. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.